I know what you're thinking. You see these maps. Let me go Villa, please. Please, let me go Villa. Too bad. You've got Emerald Plains. There's a lot of unnecessary hate for Emerald Plains. But the real reason why people don't want to play it is because they're not comfortable on it. They don't know the map. People cheer for Clubhouse or Oregon because they've played those maps hundreds of times. They've seen it played by professionals hundreds of times. And here you've got people saying, oh, the map's terrible. And then they admit that they leave the map every time they play it in ranked. How are you going to learn the map if you don't play it? I'm going to provide you with some callouts and some possible ways to attack and defend this map, just to get you more comfortable with playing Emerald Plains. There's plenty of other videos that have gone through a walkthrough, so I'm not going to waste your time on that. I'm going to go straight into the strats. So let's start with the top floor. Normally when you enter, there's going to be feet holes here on the left, and that's where these two windows come into play. You've got the lion window. When we open this up, you can see we've got angles that go all the way into meeting. You can also play either side of the painting wall. But the problem is you also have somebody that is probably tucked in the corner here by the lion statue. So you can't get a full angle from this window. So that's why it's important to have a teammate over here on the clock window as well. And when we open this up, you can see that we can actually cut off anyone who's trying to come up clock stairs and anyone that could potentially be holding the feet holes on the walk-in. So in theory, somebody could be hiding here, but they're not going to be able to hold too effectively on a run-in. And that's where you've got smokes as well that can be helpful for you to cross. So if you smoke that cross, there's potential that you can get into this gallery area, which you can start planting immediately. You can plant anywhere in ceramics. You can plant anywhere in painting, anywhere in statue. And then the other bomb site is meeting. So taking this east control can be very effective. Obviously, you see here on the floor, everything is soft. So they could theoretically be playing a pulse below, but essentially this is going to be the easiest way is to take control of these windows, open this breach, and try to get a plant down as fast as possible. In addition, if you want to cut off this flank, you have this window here, so you can have 3 players playing on windows, and you can have 2 players that are essentially trying to get into the site and executing a plant. There's other ways as well. In order to get intel on this push, you can get a drone up here on the roof, which there's glass, so you won't be able to actually spot anyone, but you can see into ceramics if there's people hiding in either one of the corners, and you can get intel on library. That's a very nice cutoff drone that isn't necessarily going to be spotted by a defender. You can see it's very hard to see where that drone is, and it gives you free intel on somebody hiding in these corners. Now, if we're trying to attack from the other side, we have the western take, which you've got these 2 windows here. This rappel is going to be very important because you've got to worry about green stairs. You can also worry about the sights, and you can see the long angle that opens up once you are on this window. But generally your job on this window is going to be flank watch, which you can do theoretically upside down, making sure that nobody comes from the downstairs flank. And you could, in order to cut flank off, you can have somebody stationed here waiting for somebody to cross over from library. And with that drone we have earlier, if you know somebody is in library, you can use this drone on the roof to cut them off and be ready for them. So effectively taking the top floor, it's just cutting the map in half, trying to control either the western side or the eastern side, and trying to get a plant down. But it is possible to get into admin and open up this wall and then try to get a plant off. But again, you have to worry about a swing. You've got to worry about green stairs. You've got to worry about library. And you also have to worry about the open angles that you might have to face. Ideally, you could get a plant here, or you could get behind the bar. You can use smokes, obviously, to cover your cross. Just be careful for nitros. But these are the two ways that I would attack the top floor sites. Obviously, is taking control of either the eastern side, which I think is easier to do in general for either site, or you can take control of the western side, which is going to be a little bit more difficult and require a lot more patience. So one of the easiest ways to essentially get into the site, I would suggest bringing a hard breach, whether it's a Hibana or an ace, to get a head hole angle here that can effectively cut off any rotates. You can also use these smokes to try to get a plant down. Go ahead and open this wall up as well. If you open up both of these sides, you effectively can get a long angle that sees through the entirety of the site. So this can make it very difficult for defenders in order to protect this area of the map. You can even get upside down repels here to get people that are rotating, but ideally you're going to try to get a plant down in this area, and you can effectively hold these crosses. You can try to get a plant in the door.
You have dropped the diffuser.
And that would help. You have an open area here, you have an open area here, and that can prevent defenders from crossing. And here, if you're planting tucked, you can be protected from the area here. So if you effectively use smokes, if you effectively have cover in multiple angles, right, you're going to be able to get a plant down successfully in kitchen without having to take vertical. Alternatively, vertical is an option because you do have the hatch, you do have a soft floor in all of kitchen, so you could theoretically get your picks by playing vertically and make a plant easier that way. Now when you're trying to attack the bar site, you could in theory get vertical because you've got this hatch which opens up. It looks into the bar and you can see basically everyone in the bar except for the corner here. And you have vertical play that can look over all of the VIP area because all of the lounge is soft. So you have all of this area which can be opened from above and effectively push defenders out of that area. Same thing above the pool table area. You have vertical that can be made, which can see any defenders that are playing in pool. But the problem is, with Emerald Plains, we know there are 3 staircases. You've got orange stairs, you've got the white stairs, and you've got the green stairs. So any attempt at playing vertical is, again, going to need somebody playing watching flank. And in Emerald Plains, ideally, you need 2 people watching flank. You need 1 for each part of the map that you're trying to cut off. When you're taking vertical, it makes it more difficult because if you have 2 people dedicated for flank, that means you can only have a couple people dedicated for vertical, and it leaves 1 flank that's not watched. So the first floor attacks can be very difficult. Bar can be a very good site for defenders if it is played properly. This area cannot be planted in because it is just the pool table when the site is actually lounge and bar. So this area of the room can be planted in. This area of the room, the entirety of bar can be planted in. So there's really only a few spots that you're safe in here without vertical above you. Trying to take these sites effectively can be very difficult. Defenders can actually leave this hatch open as an advantage for them and flank late in the round and try to stop any potential plants. There is a breach here to the exterior that gives easy access to this area of the map, But you could, in theory, as a defender, make some holes that make it very difficult for them to walk in. You could have somebody playing on the green stairs. You can have people playing in the bar. It makes it very difficult if they breach this wall just to get in. As an attacker, you want to minimize the impact of defenders, and that would be trying to go for direct takes on either one of the sites. So you can either try to get in bar if that hatch is reinforced or remains closed, right? And that's going to prevent your encounters that you're going to have with defenders, right? There's not too many places that they can hide in here. Got a few turned over tables, you've got the couple bars, and this is essentially where most defenders are going to be playing. And it prevents you from getting flanked if you're doing a direct take. You could as well, in theory, take control of lobby or reception area, right? You just have to worry about the soft walls here in bathroom, and you could try to get a plant down in the lounge area on either side of the wall. The problem is, when you're trying to take this area of the map, you have the long hall to worry about for flank, and if you get here, you've got the drop that's in library. So these bottom floor sites, in theory, are easier for defenders because there's so much more map control that you have to take as an attacker in order to be successful.
Protect your bombs from being
So we're going to go over a basic site setup for admin CEO. Generally, you want to reinforce all of the admin walls here on Music Hall. Make the attackers open those walls up in order to get lines of sight. Obviously, you want to reinforce the single wall here. You can have a rotate on either side into the meeting area. You want some head holes to make it more difficult for them to get an easy plant down. And generally what I like to do, I like to extend using castle. So, as I mentioned on attack, those power positions, I like to castle off, make it more difficult for them, forcing a sledge to rotate all over the map to get rid of these castles. Make some feet holes and reinforce this breach, because then that is going to force the attackers to use utility in order to open up the walls. And again, on some of those windows that are cutoffs, you can use the castle there. So one of the power positions that you want to hold as a defender is probably library. You always have to worry about the archives control here, but that's why we have this setup. So you can peek into archives if somebody is walking in and looking at the library. You've got multiple angles that you can look at. You can, in theory, make this a rotate and make it easy to see that area. But ideally you want to hold library because you notice most of the floor it's a hard floor. Same thing in hunting, it's all a hard floor. So these two areas where they have the cutoff windows are going to be important to have a defender here to stop the attackers from taking map control. Here as well, we've got the feet holes because you want to be able to take out the attackers if they are going to be walking into the breach. So you've got the feet holes so you can see when they walk in. The only issue you're going to have is this window. If they put somebody here, you aren't effectively able to play in this position because you can be shot from that window if you're trying to hold these feet holes. But that's where these castles come into play. If nobody's on these windows, you can freely hold the breach in case they open it up. You can hold archives if the attackers are coming in, and you still have a rotate easy to the sites. So generally, attackers will try to get a plant here by cutting off these windows, or they'll try to get into this small area and get a plant down here. So those are the areas that you need to worry about when attackers are taking map control. You want to try to contest in music hall, try to prevent them from getting up green stairs, so you can have somebody effectively play green stairs, making sure that nobody shows up, because here you have a hard floor. The only thing you have to worry about is somebody sitting on the window or effectively walking in music door. So this can be a very difficult position. You might need ADSs here if you think that the attackers, or you know the attackers, are going to be pushing from this way. You can make this a power position by putting either magnets or ADSs in order to prevent them from taking this position. So you have these head holes. Generally, you can reinforce one of the sides. It's all personal preference. And you can prevent a plant if it's coming in from the window or from gold door. If you're uncomfortable with the drop in library, then you can board up this window, which is going to cut off lines of sight. So they can't freely kill you without just spraying open the window. Generally, you can have somebody playing Oscar, which is going to prevent any walk-ins, and you can also cover the waiting breach. And if this castle remains up, you can also have someone that is effectively playing at the hunting hall at Boar, covering the music door, helping the person that's on green stairs. Now, looking at the other top floor site, the setup is going to be very similar. There's going to be a few different walls that you're going to reinforce. You're still going to have these feet holes on the vault just to make it harder for them to walk in. You can get some nice angles as well with this destructible environment. You can get a nice effective angle on the door as long as you bring that castle again. There is a possibility. The other thing about this map, it was released with a zombie. So you can see I'm playing a zombie here. A zombie can effectively cut off some of these sight lines as well. So if you don't want to bring a castle, you can bring in a zombie, and it makes it more difficult for the attackers. And notice the attacker, they wouldn't be able to melee this piece of equipment. So they would have to use a nade or some sort of explosive in order to get rid of that sight line. So you can effectively save yourself from some of these angles that the attackers are going to repel on, and it forces the attackers to use utility to stop your power positions. Now, another place that you can effectively hold as a zombie is going to be this library area, and there's some cool places where you can put your Kiba barriers in order to make sure that you are protected from these windows. You can effectively use this to cover up the window there, and you could also put a Kiba barrier here to cover your door. Right, so you can still hold these areas. You can peek the library window if they're pushing you, but you're effectively saved from a couple angles. You're saved from this angle as well because it's going to be very rare that you're going to have someone not holding the archives. So in order for them to clear this Kiba area, again, they have to use an explosive or they have to run all the way in. But generally, you're going to have somebody watching that. So if somebody wants to clear you out of that spot, they have to try very, very hard in order to get you out. I know I showed the drone spot earlier. That glass you can actually shoot out so the drone will fall, or you can effectively just shoot the drone. So if you know that's a spot for the drone, then you can look up for it and get rid of it. You cannot be shot from here. There is a little trick that they can silent repel and see if you're in there if they have no drone intel, but it's a very weak position in general for anyone to go on the roof in Emerald Plains. So you can still effectively defend areas in library by using these Kiba barriers. So you can even extend your Kiba barrier and make it more difficult for them to get an angle. And you can also use the chair to cover up the hunting window. So there's a lot of ways that you can use a zombie on this map. When people say there's a lot of clutter, sure, there might be a lot of visual things, but none of it gets in the way of your gunfights. There's not a lot of clutter for your gunfights. When you compare it to other maps, you still have Clubhouse where if you've got money on the table, you've got other things that debris actually flies into your face. But there's not a lot of visual clutter other than the office area on this map, where you've got a printer, you've got a couple monitors, but it's no more than any other map. So when we look at the top floor, a lot of the hold is the same. Again, you've got the feet holes, you're protecting vault. You're going to have a rotate on this side because you are protected from the window. Again, if there's no Kiba barrier there, that window is a vulnerable area. So this is where you would want to rotate. And then you can seal up the coffee side walls, which is then going to make it easier for you to hold this area down. And ideally, you want somebody playing near gold, because if they try to take the western side, you want somebody here who can prevent the walk-in to site, and you can have somebody playing the site door as well that can play a cross angle. So again, you have to worry about this area here. You have to worry about this window, because it's going to prevent you from playing certain positions. If I wanted to, I could, in theory, put a Kiba barrier here, which is going to protect me from this angle, and again, force them to use utility to throw a nade, or use an Ash charge, or a Zofia charge, or a Gone 6 to clear it and kill the person in this corner. So there's a lot of different power positions and a lot of utility usage in order to win Emerald Plains. So I think that's why a lot of people don't like it. Alright, so generally you want to reinforce the pantry or freezer wall. Obviously you're going to reinforce all of the dining walls. Depending on if you want to play vertically or not, that's what determines whether or not you want to reinforce the hatch. In this example, we're going to reinforce the hatch just to force the attackers to open it up. So we've got those 4 walls used there. We're going to put a reinforcement here as well. In case they open up that pantry wall, we want some cover. We're going to put an impact here. Reinforce the fireplace walls as well. And then we'll get up to reinforce the hatch. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10 reinforcements. And once you have these reinforcements, you don't necessarily have to play vertically, but there's a few areas that you're going to want to control. This is one area that you want to control on orange stairs, because there is a window that they can vault in that you can hold from the top stairs, which is very difficult for an attacker to jump in. So if we look at the attacker's point of view, they're looking out here, so they have to worry about the run out, the long haul, and if they vault in, they have to somehow kill the person holding this angle, which is very, very difficult, because you can see their knees and legs as they hop in, so you can pre-fire it as they come in the window. You don't have to worry about exposing yourself here. So here's one of the pyro positions that you want to play if you're defending kitchen. You can see I've taken a zombie as well. There is a powerful angle that you can use with the boost. When we look here, you can see the window is wide open. The defender can swing you standing up, and they're going to be able to pre-aim that boost spot. You can mitigate that by putting a Kiba barrier on the top, and it allows you to see the defender from their bottom half. So they have to, in order to see you on the boost spot, they have to be crouched, which means they're going to peek slower. And you can shoot them in the body if they try to punch your Kiba. So by getting rid of that window and playing this boost spot, you can create a one-way angle unless the attacker is crouched. Obviously, you have to worry about the fountain area, but here you can use your Kiba barrier again in order to mitigate the attackers from shooting you in the back, right? You can seal up the entire thing, and if they are going to be breaking your Kiba barrier, you can shoot their toes as they punch out this Kiba. So this is a very powerful position for a zombie on kitchen defense. The only thing that you have to worry about is obviously the verticality, potentially nades coming over the top from fireplace. But again, that forces the attackers to take a lot of map control. So if you do have roamers outside of the site, it makes it very tough for them to take map control. So in order to get nades over this wall, right, they have to get into this lobby area, which forces them to get control of lobby, forces them to get control of fountain, forces control of library. This is going to be one of the powerful angles that the attackers will use to look into kitchen. But you can see with the Kiba barriers, it makes it very difficult for attackers to get sight lines. So there you have your kitchen setup. All right, to hold the lounge and bar site, I'm going to start by reinforcing the two lounge walls. It just makes it forces the attackers to actually push in. And we're going to reinforce the two exterior walls. This is just going to be using up utility. I'm going to reinforce the left side of the south wall. And then we're going to make some head holes. And I'm going to make a rotate on the pool wall here on the western side of the north wall. Going to reinforce the stock wall on the north side of bar. And then I'm going to get upstairs and reinforce the hatch. So you can effectively play this site from outside the map and taking areas of control. You can play this front area in coat. I like to call it coat because you have mudroom, which continues all the way here. This is all mudroom. So I just call this coat. Just makes it easier to distinguish mud into parts. So you've got mudroom here and then coat room here. This is the plantable area in both the bar and in lounge. You cannot plant in pool, but you've got this exterior wall that you have to worry about, and of course you've got this window that you have to worry about. So you can play this area, but generally you want to have a cross with the person on green stairs. So as long as you can maintain this wall closed, this can be a very powerful position. You can watch reception, which covers your teammate from a walk-in. If you hear them pushing in, you can hold a soft angle here and have your teammate swing from green stairs. Or you could, in theory, swing either the mud window or the mud door. But generally, by having this hatch closed, you're going to be able to freely play within the bar, and you just have to worry about them taking stock control and trying to get a plant off. Again, you've got verticality that can happen in lounge and in pool table, but not in the bar as long as you keep this hatch closed. So it can be very tough for attackers to take control. Oftentimes they're going to try to take control of this fountain area. If they take control of F2, they can get up and over and see into the bar. So that can make it very difficult and put some pressure on the defense, but they can't reach anything in the fireplace. And if they're trying to breach the dining wall, they've got to worry about the drop upstairs. They have to worry about long hall. They have to worry about the lobby area. So there's a lot of control that attackers need to take in order to effectively attack the bar site. So you don't necessarily have to play within the site walls. And you can play in these power positions, one which would be green stairs, because you can't really get pushed out unless there are people physically pushing into the building above or below you, or both. So as long as you can have some sort of denial, whether it's a bandit or a Cade, and preventing this wall from being opened, the bar site can be one of the best sites in the map. If you want to make it more difficult, you can bring a castle or an Azami, right? Just to make sure that they have to use util in order to destroy these barricades, which is just going to eat up time and make it more difficult for them to attack the site. I'm going to put links for the 2 callout pages in the description below. So if you'd like to download those and look at it, you're more than welcome to. I hope you learned about Emerald Plains and that you're not afraid to play it. I'm going to be doing some videos like this in the future for new maps, so we might be taking a look at Nighthaven Labs in the future, which is coming with Operation Solar Raid. If you have any other content that you want to see, please let me know. I'm more than happy to make a video on it if you need help figuring out another map. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.